with inflation is that last year there was a different base year that was used. Yeah. This year there's a different base year. You cannot feel the full effect of what is happening with inflation until you go through a one-year cycle. It's not a fair comparison using last year that had a different base year to inflation this year that had a different base year. So definitely you will always see a drop in the number. Also, inflation parameter baskets have changed. Weighted averages have moved more towards other areas. Like on this new parameter, the weighted average of food is lesser. So any uptick, you will see a reduction in food. It will take the expiration of this one-year cycle. After we now have inflation being calculated with this base year, then we now start comparing with the preceding year before we can have some resolution on the data. So we have something to compare. But today, what we are comparing with inflation is like apples and oranges, actually. Because the last base year is different, and you're comparing 2 years that had different base year. Analytically, you know, that will not give you good results. But I just hope that this signaling now of food prices dropping, the rate of increase of food prices dropping, will signal the central bank to now cut rates. Because businesses are grueling under high interest rates. Interest rates are up. What if interest rates are about 20-something%? What businesses take interest rates at in the bank when they go to the bank, when they add their own charges, it goes to over 30%. And it's uneasy for businesses to survive in this country. So when you look at it on that flip side, yes. So, but when you look at it, they say the rates are coming down. I do not see the rates coming down in the markets. You know, the other day, they took videos and say, you can see the basket of this has dropped in Benue. That's not a fair parameter because you forget that Benue is a food hub. So the price at which is going to come in Benue, when you factor in the price of transportation and logistics, it's going to be different when it gets to Lagos. And in fact, I don't know about you, month on month, what I've spent on food has increased. So I've not seen a deceleration out of my own pockets. So these are the parameters we need to look at strongly. But for those that want to celebrate and thump their fist in the air and say this is success, it's all well and good on the celebration. Let's say it pans out. Secondly, this is also coming at a time as regards removal of the free on board charge. I'm very happy about this because we spoke about it and they listened. In fact, we had the president, the chair of the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria come here to talk about how it was affecting their businesses and how this charge was adding extra monies to their businesses. So we're happy that the Minister of Finance have finally allowed cool heads prevail. So this will be able to help their business. I think they benchmark the cost that it will cost their business about $1 trillion. And that's not nice for a manufacturing sector that's already lost about $1 trillion when we devalued our currency. It's not a good sight for them. The second story I'm going to talk about is the reaction by the presidency. And I think sometimes it's best the presidency just sits some things out if they don't have a concise reaction. There's nothing Atiku Abubakar said that was wrong to call for transparency if we're going to go ahead and divest. Some analysts have called for divestment. Yes, you can make the argument that we've not seen any need for the divestment or the government has not initiated any moves for divestment. But Atiku Abubakar is saying if we want to do it, let us do it transparently. You know, because it is this same government that is so quick to cast aspersions at Atiku Abubakar by saying that, the reason why he wants to sell the refinery is to his cronies and friends. So what his statement is just saying that in the bid where we're going to divest from some of our oil assets, let's do it with transparency. Then the next thing the government comes out and says, you don't see the achievements we've done in the last 2 years. I mean, there's a mismatch in both statements.
Well, he did also highlight the sufferings of the Nigerian people.
Yes, he highlighted the sufferings of the Nigerian people, which are palpable. Which are palpable. Are people not suffering? Is the currency not being devalued? Are lives not worse off? Is the World Bank not saying that more people are slipping into sufferings? So it's a mismatch as regards what is on ground. So you reacting and saying you don't see what the government has done in 2 years and all of that, it's a mismatch because you have not eradicated the sufferings of people. Yes, inflation has come down because we changed base year. At its peak, it was over 34% with the last base year iteration. Yes, you say, okay, we have capital importation at this point in time. Yes, so our balance of deficit is increasing. Yes. Then you now go further to say, we are already doing more. People are buying on the stock market. Is the stock market a reflection of human beings on the streets? Is there a difference between Broad Street and Main Street? And why are people going into the stock market? People are going to the stock market because the government is crowding out the ecosystem in bonds. So a lot of people are looking at market instruments to go to. So is that a reflection of the person suffering in the markets? So I think it is even the government that doesn't understand the distinction between people suffering. We are talking about, you have not seen what we have done in 2 years. Look at insecurity. Is it not a reflection of a failure of the government that people are not going to negotiate with bandits? And despite that, bandits are still attacking them. But Mr. Bayo Onanuga fails to realize that it prevails over a government. You can hear a bandit attacking Zave and Farah State. Did you hear that you had a military push as regards it? No, because it doesn't concern them. But in a local government of 5 polling units, you have battalions of soldiers to go there and NSCDC officials. So you can see what the government has been doing in 2 years, where over 40 people abducted. Abduction of people is not like pure water in the country. You can see what the government has been doing in 2 years. Bandits have the nerve now to sit down with people and negotiate peace deals. You can see what the government has been doing in 2 years. Yes, Nel Fund. Okay, yes, we applaud Nel Fund. What else? Oh, the president promised they are going to deploy tractors from Belarus that they've bought already, that his friend, his schoolmate. Dr. Bati, have those tractors been deployed already? Weren't you the one complaining the other day that after buying the tractor, they've not been deployed? Have we seen an upsurge in agricultural production? You can see all the promises he made after subsidy. President Tinubu celebrated that the refinery is already working. His back is working. Is the NPC refinery working today? Have they given us our $3 billion? What are they telling us now? You have to, Ojulari was speaking the other day. You have to look for 60 billion extra for expansion. So let's stop talking like things are not happening in this country.
All right.
Oh, you can see what's happening. A state of emergency was declared. Till today, the Supreme Court didn't hear that case.
2 more days to the end of that.
Shall I continue?
No, it's okay.
Just take your time. Watch this video to the end. You see, every time APC are always coming online to lie to Nigerians, to give Tinubu's administration turns out, to say that Tinubu administration is doing well. Inflation is coming down. Inflation is now 20-something%. Inflation is this. All those things are bullshit for me, because it does not resonate with the lies that Nigerians are living. It does not in any way. Inflation, you are just changing figures, rebasing every time. Last year, this year, you are changing figures. You are just romancing the figure. Then you are telling us that things are getting better. Inflations are coming down. This and that. No, it does not reflect. That coming down of inflation has not in any way impact the lives that Nigerians are living. And that is what matters. So you can't just be on the system romancing the figures, telling us that things are getting better, inflations are coming down, numbers are dropping. It's not reflecting with the lives that people are living on the street. You see them. That one does not put food on their table. It does not reduce the price of anything in the market. They are still the same thing. So how come these inflations are coming, that things are getting better, but the price of food and services are not dropping? So what is, I don't understand. Anyways, take your time, listen to this video to the end so that you know what we are talking about here. So that APC member will not deceive you. They are not deceiving us, they are deceiving themselves. Take your time, watch this video to the end. You know what I'm talking about. But please, when you listen, drop your honest opinion about this. If we are lying, or it is the APC members, government that is lying to themselves, deceiving themselves, lying to Nigerians, drop your honest opinion, comment, like, share, comment, and subscribe to this YouTube channel so that YouTube can continue recommending these videos and the channel to others. We'll come back and talk about it.
I shall not continue. Okay.
The Nigerian Bureau of Statistics says inflation has dropped by to 20.12% year on year. Food inflation has gone down. Core inflation, which is the measurement without agricultural products, has also gone down. Now, I think what you should warn against is playing politics with statistics. The explanation that they have given is that, oh, this is due to rebasing. Now, rebasing is a statistical term. Where is the connection with the lives of the people in real terms? What the people themselves can see, what they can refer to as felt lived experience. Because inflation dropping, stabilizing, cannot be an abstraction. The central bank governor says, oh, this is as a result of the fact that things are stabilizing within the economy, and that, in fact, inflation is, in the next few months, likely to drop even further, having dropped for 5 consecutive months. Now, all of that would look like abstraction to the average Nigerian. Where I think the missing link is that when they talk about food inflation, ordinarily, perennially, historically, we're in the harvest season. August, September, October, that's the harvest season. So the prices of food items in the market would naturally come down. But you see, that food inflation could drop further if farmers are able to go to their farms. In other words, the government needs to pay more attention to security of the farmlands. In many parts of the country, the farmers within the food belt of Nigeria, they cannot go to the farms. Not enough is being done within the agricultural value chain. In other words, what are we celebrating when we have not yet addressed the basic fundamentals? If they say core inflation, again, you look at that core inflation segment of the calculations, there are a lot of contradictions that are there. Cost of energy is flip-flopping. Cost of electricity is going up and down. Transportation is on the high side. So which Nigerian can say that many of these indicators have been properly addressed? Instead, what we get month after month, are reports that, inflation is moderating. If inflation is moderating, if inflation is dropping, it's not something that should be an abstraction. It should not be something that is politicized. The people who go to the markets, the people who travel on the roads, they will see it and they will proclaim it and they will confirm it that this indeed is the truth. Household expenditures have not improved. And in many households, the story remains one of complaint, and agony. It's an area that the federal government needs to focus upon and to move from, statistical diplomacy to concrete achievements with direct impact on the lives of the people. Now, as for Atiku Abubakar, the Waziri Adamawa, saying that he is concerned about the attempt to review the PIA, that's the Petroleum Industry Act, and also to sell Nigeria's stake in some of the joint ventures. All that I read in the papers about former Vice President Atiku was him calling for transparency and accountability, and making sure that Nigeria's sovereign interest is protected. Now, at the level of principle, that is incontrovertible. You cannot argue with him. Are you going to argue against his request for transparency, sovereign interest, long-term interest of the Nigerian entity? And he raises that point with regard to the joint ventures, particularly our joint ventures with Renaissance Energy, with Oando, and I think there's another company, Seplat. Now, the Nigerian government has these joint ventures, but we often underperform. We don't pay our own cash call requirements. It's the partners that will say, oh, we have filled the gap for you. And then they will add charges on it. And at the end of the day, the Nigerian government will lose even more money because we don't perform. We don't service our own part of the JV calls. So if privatization is the way to go, in principle, privatization is not the problem. And that is why Waziri Adamawa Atiku Abubakar was saying, well, he believes in trade liberalization, privatization. After all, as Vice President of Nigeria, he was the chair of the National Council on Privatization. But I'm not talking about National Council of Privatization in this regard. I'm saying that, look, privatization could help. But what is important is this transparency, integrity, and accountability. Now, how do you do it if you say you are divesting? Who manages that divestment? Will it be the Bureau of Public Enterprises or some other fictional mongrel of a structure that would be asked to do it? That's why Nigerians have every reason to be concerned. Now to the three entities that Waziri Adamawa mentioned. Renaissance Energy. Now, Nigeria, I think, has about 55% equity in Renaissance Energy. They say they are going to sell about 35%. They will retain maybe 20%. That 35% is going to be sold to an Indian energy company. Who is behind that Indian energy company? We have 60% in Oando. Now, out of the 60% in Oando, we're going to divest about 25%. That 25% will be sold to Oando. We have, I think, also 60% in Seplat. Now, the federal government is proposing to divest to the tune of about 35%. Now, the Nigerian government says, or, those who are concerned, they are saying that that divestment, that equity will be sold to Shaguri and Shaguri, or a group that is associated with Shaguri and Shaguri. Can anyone just see why a body like the Committee of Patriots are saying that, look, there's something suspicious about this? And it's the same argument that other commentators on the subject have brought forward by saying the plan to amend the Petroleum Industry Act is also backed by personal interest of the persons who want to do this. Section 6, 85, 59, 56 of that PIA. Where I do not agree with those who argue against that amendment is that they're saying, oh, it is too early to amend the Petroleum Industry Act. Now, any piece of legislation is a living object. People can always review it. They can always amend it. After all, when the PIA itself was passed, the major concern at that time was that there was a problem, that there were problems with certain sections that needed to be amended. If the Tinubu administration says the time has now come for that amendment, I think they cannot say, oh, the time is not right. But their argument of those who are opposing it, that personal interest should not be the major priority, I think is on all fours with the position of the Waziri Adamawa, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Finally, I've always made the point that this negotiation with bandits, with terrorists, they say in Katsina they are holding meetings with terrorists. No. The basic position is that terrorists, bandits, insurgents are criminals. They tried this negotiation thing, previously under the Buhari administration. It did not work. Because the whole idea of rehabilitation and negotiation amounted to a cop-out against the Nigerian people by the Nigerian government at that time. And now we have praised the Tinubu administration in terms of the arrest, the prosecution of the Emir Ansaru, or whatever he calls himself, and his chief of staff, Mahmouda, and their sentencing on one of the 32-count charges. That, look, it looks like the Tinubu administration is not ready to prepare jollof rice or, engage in this illusion that criminals can be rehabilitated. Now, if that is what they are trying to do in Katsina State, it is wrong. Persons who have been identified as rank and file criminals of the first rank, should be subjected to the full wrath of the law. Sitting down and negotiating with criminals, either at the community level or at the government level, is unacceptable, and it runs against the grain of previous protestations by the Tinubu administration that any criminal, any bandit, any insurgent will be labeled appropriately as a criminal and dealt with accordingly.
Absolutely, labeled as a criminal. I think for us in Nigeria, we need to define what we term as criminal activity and who we see to be criminals. Do we consider bandits as criminals? Like Dr. Bati mentioned, we've explored this route of kinetic and non-kinetic, and as part of the moves for non-kinetic approach to addressing security challenges in the country, some states in the Northwest had resorted to negotiating with these bandits whom some people would refer to as criminals, and criminals in the sense that they are architects of violence, kidnapping, cattle rustling, I don't know what else, or under which other term would call them, if not criminals, who ought to face the law. But it's okay, you know what, they might have some things that they agree with about. Let's bring them to the negotiation table, since we've been on this path of war with them for many, many years, and perhaps this would bring about peace. Now, on August 28th of this year, it was said that a peace agreement had been reached with some of these bandits. And they said it wasn't the government that was spearheading this peace agreement. It was community-led. So some spiritual leaders, some community leaders came together, and they actually had a sit-down with bandits in Nigeria to negotiate. As we would imagine, less than a month following that peace agreement, we've now seen this attack on the Zamfara community, which happened yesterday, and where they kidnapped about 40 people during prayers in the mosque. This also reflects in Katsina State as well, where we've seen bandits still attack. So what happened to the peace pact? It shows, as it failed during Governor Bello Masari's time, when it failed at that time, that peace agreements or peace pacts do not work. When are we going to acknowledge this and actually treat the situation as it ought to be? Like Dr. Bati described it, and I totally agree. It seems like a cop-out because they've not been able to push back on terrorist activities in the Northwest. So the next thing is to let, okay, you know what, let's talk to them. What do you want to negotiate about? What they say, oh, in major wars, people come to negotiation table. Even World War I, World War II ended through negotiation and agreement. But the people should have something they're holding on to. What is the claim of the bandits, aside from the fact that they are involved in criminal activities? I center on security today because it ties in or it links to a number of the stories or headline stories for this morning. When we look at the state of the economy that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar spoke about, he did talk about the fact that when we have a state of poverty and lack in the economy in the country, it would lead to young people and even older people involving themselves in a life of crime and criminal activity. So he talked about the increase in advanced free fraud, increase in even protestations, as we've seen in other parts of the world. He talked about the fact that if the Tinubu administration is not serious about looking at the economy, then we might find ourselves dealing with even bigger issues. And so that is why we have to be serious about security. Hence the reason why we applauded the efforts of security agencies in prosecuting criminals as they are. And we saw the sentencing as we talked about last week. So to now begin to see negotiations and even the audacity to go back to the negotiation table again, following the breakdown of the peace pact, beggars belief. I believe that the Northwest is serious. And you know, the Zamfara governor has said it before, that the bandits are people that they know. They are people that they understand the operation. And if given the apparatus, he'll be able to tackle this in 2 weeks. Give him the apparatus. Let him work it out, because the people have suffered for too long under the siege of these bandits for us to be handling the matter of security with child's play. We have a bigger time bomb on our hands if we don't deal with that. And that again feeds to the inflation numbers we're talking about. And you know, Vice President Atiku Abubakar describes it as voodoo economics. You can understand why, because they are playing permutations and, you know, just jiggling or rejiggling numbers to make the figures look good. But as we've talked about, if it does not reflect in the reality for the Nigerian people, then they're just numbers. And so we keep celebrating and talking about, okay, year on year. We cannot talk about year on year if we're looking at it from the lens of different base years. And so it's difficult to describe as success or improvement or a fall in inflation numbers when the base years are totally different. We've talked about the fact that food inflation will continue to rise if we don't tackle or look at the issue of security, if the farmers cannot go to the farm. And that's why I tie it again all back to security. This administration under President Ahmed Tinubu had said that they were going to double down on security and ensure that farmers would be able to go back to their farms. Unfortunately, this is not the reality as we speak. And so beyond the rhetorics, beyond giving them nice outfits when they have killed and maimed and disturbed economic activities for so long, let us show seriousness towards criminals and criminality, and we go after them in the way that we ought to, and not sit down with them and have negotiations that will not bear any fruit at all. Because at the end of the day, what are they really fighting for? What is their cause? Aside from the fact that it is just an opportunity to take advantage of the people. And
somehow, for some reason, a spectre is haunting the Nigerian political space. That spectre is much more acute within the ranks of the dominant or the hegemonic power bloc. This power bloc is composed of top members of the parliament, presidential power brokers, including noisy aides of the president, distracted ministers, and lawyers with dubious agenda. That spectre is Jonathan's second coming. You'll recall that precisely 10 years ago, slightly more than 10 years ago, That historic moment that former President Jonathan picked that phone and made a call to late President Buhari, then General Muhammad Buhari. I lost you one. Congratulations. Set a tone for a new direction, a new conversation about democracy and its consolidation in Africa, not just Nigeria. Became the brightest moment of the reawakening of democratic sensibilities and consciousness. 10 years down the line, as a global statesman and a leading African figure, the news is all over town. The former President Jonathan may likely seek a second term, even though he has not spoken directly. That is why there's fright. That's why the rank of the power brokers are frightened. And it is understandable for objective reasons why there is confusion in their ranks. I'll ask the question to, you three guys. When ministers, party leaders of the APC, and presidential spokespersons give advice to PDP, they've already branded dead. Not to feed Jonathan because of some legal consequences. It looks as if they're taking Panado for other people's headache. The critical problem is that the second term of the president is going to be a referendum. It will not be an aspirational moment in which, oh, this is what I'm going to do for the country. I'm a newcomer in the game. I'm freshly minted. 4 years is enough time for the country to assess him, to say, if you're coming back 2027, this is the scorecard. 2 years plus after the macroeconomic shocks of Naira floating and subsidy removal, the land is still ravaged by poverty and hunger and insecurity. That means if a Jonathan is to be a candidate of the opposition party, especially the PDP, he was the last president of that party, it's going to be a tall order for the president and his team to win. For the simple reason that they're going to run on your term. At that time, it's going to be a shabby, clueless, incompetent term of office. That being the case, it is better to shut down that conversation quickly, to declare the former president possibly constitutionally debarred from contesting, and then to create some sense of chaos and disorder within the ranks of his party. Now, let's talk briefly about the PDP. Ruben, Rufai, and Ayo, for over a year and a half, almost 2 years, the party was pronounced dead, racked by internal factionalization and contradictions that would never find its bearing. Therefore, the party was written off. Now, the same party that was written off is now being asked not to fill the former president, because the party has rebounded, recreated and reborn. That took a long time in coming. I'm not a member of the party, but I'm a close watcher of party politics in Nigeria and a student of our history. The rebate of PDP was a difficult process, marshaled by three forces. The Governors Forum, led by the Governor of Bauchi State, the chairman of that forum, the BOT, led by Senator Mwabara, and the rebranded NWC, led by Elia Damagos, Ambassador Damagos, the chairman. With the stage coming back of the secretary of the party, the tone was set for party rebranding. 3 or 4 next, a convention just around the corner, and possibility that out of the ashes of its previous, disastrous moment of the past year and a half, the party is set to become coherent once more. If that happens, and President Jonathan, on the heels of the persuaders who are very agitated that they should come into the fray and save the nation, almost on the edge of the precipice, that's why they find this particular phenomenon is rankling in the ranks of the APC and the presidential insiders. If it happens, my suspicion is that it's not only the internal factors of his competence and ability, maybe to do what he did, decade plus ago. Stabilize the economy, the foreign exchange. It was very low, Naira to dollar. Grew the economy to be the biggest in Africa. Fought Boko Haram to a standstill. Remember, you were there. A standstill. The internal domestic franchise was completely masculated. The size broken into pieces. The sources of fund destroyed. And many other things one can keep talking about if the time is available. If he's to come back with 10 years of deep experience and exposure in international politics, the context, therefore, in 2027 will no longer be a national context, becomes an international context. That means the eyes of the world will be on the country. That means anybody going to leverage on the apparatuses of the state. We're going to leverage on the army, the DSA, the police, the INEC. We have a pause because there'll be acute and intense scrutiny of the electoral process, which may be unprecedented in our history and possibly not to be witnessed if Jonathan is not going to contest. These, for me, are some of the reasons why there is visible panic in the ranks of the other side. The other second person who I'm sure is creating that sense of panic was the former candidate of the Labour 2023. I didn't mention him too, because he was a member of the PDP for a long time. And if indeed the party, as I say, is reborn and himself is only part of that mix, either him or Jonathan has the capacity and everything it takes.
Professor, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Okay, thank you. I love
Yes, I can hear you.
You always come on the show with a lot of passion. But let me come in here to just ask you, and I hear how you passionately...
A little bit...
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, that's better now.
Okay, excellent. So you've come to talk about how, the chances of former President Goodluck Jonathan, if he decides to run. I think it's important to mention that he hasn't yet declared his intentions
Absolutely.
as to whether or not he would run. But if he does decide to run, based on the pressure from different parties, with the structure that the APC currently have, and the power of incumbency, do you think any party currently has a structure to accommodate a viable opponent to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
You see, APC structure is an inorganic structure. It's not an organic structure. Organic structure is a structure that's deep-rooted within the people. that is from ground up. That means you take out a governor of PDP or any other party and absorb that governor into your rank. Have you absorbed the people? Have you taken the infrastructure, public support, or public anger, or discontentment? Have you taken that into consideration? We saw what happened in 2023. It was a wake-up call for APC and even PDP. When a candidate of the Labour Party, without the so-called infrastructure of support, without governors, without senators, without reps, without even local government apparatus, gave everybody a run for their money. Some even stay content. We don't know who won that election. So APC structure you're talking about is a structure that is elitist in content. It is just the top 10%, parading themselves as leaders of the parties across the country. Even PDP as a party with some difficulties over the years has enormous structure, maybe more than even APC, because it's been deeply embedded since 1998. What it needs is just something like a shot in the arm, that convention in November, and the party is roaring back. Every home, every village, everyone in the country has a PDP presence. So if the former president who has not spoken, actually, whether he's going to contest or not, we have to take up that challenge and use that platform. There'll be, I suspect, a rush from across the other opposition parties, even from Labour, even from ADC. Even those sitting on the fence, even members of the APC. And the reasons are very simple. One, you said it, Dr. Ruben, in introduction. A guaranteed one term, which, of course, P2B has been screaming about because he knows the importance of that. 2023, Southern emerged as a precedent. The indication there is that a Southern will continue to 2031. That's why the PDP strategic zoning to the south, led by the Governors Forum, was a very important decision. A very important, courageous decision. But the Northerners may find it extraordinarily difficult this time around to do it. But the simple reason is that the South is already going to become a cohesive front. If you don't have a strong person like the former President Jonathan of P2B to contend with Bola Tinubu, then it takes the entire South. If you have President Jonathan, for example, and maybe there's no B in the ticket, the entire Southeast and South side is gone from the APC. No doubt about it. He can put it today and he can do a town hall and bring him on board for that conversation. If P2B is going to contest and maybe former President Jonathan is out of the race, the same two zones will be completely out of the reach of APC in spite of those parading at the top. And for the North, they will settle this dispute. That's why PDP is only to the South. The North will settle this dispute. How will they settle this dispute? Anybody who has ears on the ground, who understands the tremors of politics and these tectonic shifts in the country today will understand that it's not we heave for former President Jonathan for very good reasons. One, his liberal disposition, the fact that he considered the election easily and walked away. He grew himself into a powerful global brand, into a powerful African brand, building consensus across nations, holding election meetings and so on, and then doing monitoring and conflict resolution. And again, his record on service, far better than what we have today, even the past 8 years of Buhari. So the North will take that single decision. We want a liberal-minded president who will not hold power, who will not grab it and run, who will do it inclusive.
Okay. Albeit all these points you've raised, Prof, are anecdotal. A considered election anecdotal.
Absolutely.
You've not been able to empirically weigh the marginal disposition of the love based on opinion polls, so there's no weighted averages as regards that. He goes for international press conferences and looks at the election, does peace mediation. Yes, some soft power disposition, but it's not being weighted across the North. No empirical statistics to that. And that's why I say all of this, albeit anecdotal. He's liberal-minded and everything. Yeah, that's not being weighted across board in the North. So you don't have like a perception index to it. So it's very easy to say yes for the sake of emotional nostalgia. It's a proposition that will sail. But you also think quickly that the North that gave Tinubu close to over 50% of the vote in the last election will make a quick pivot because Jonathan is now in the fray or considering the fray. That's number one. Number two, we act like, that the APC does not have strong footing in the North and majority of the governors will not hold to as regards the electionary process. Number three, we also act like, the North understands the zeitgeist of the nation. Most of the arguments I've heard from the North is also about positioning for when power will come back to the North because we've built a very asinine system, and I must say in this country, that only feels that when power is residing with somebody from my region, I'm happy about it. And when power goes to the other region, we're just waiting for power to come back. And it's been a dichotomy, between the North and the South all this while. I want you to challenge those talking points I've put forward, albeit an a priori, Prof.
Okay. I get it. Anecdotal. When people try to even reduce the import of anecdotal evidence in politics, it means there's a lack of concentrated attention on what is called trend lines. Trend lines are not exactly scientific in terms of measurement. Trend lines are not scientific in terms of predictability of numbers, 2%, 10%, 50%. It never works anywhere. But trend line is how do people behave given certain conditions. If former President Jonathan was to contest the election and there was quietude in the land, in the ranks of the APC, from the presidential spokespersons, from the party leaders of the APC, from ministers who abandoned their responsibilities, from lawyers who are somehow engaged or recruited, it means somebody's worried. It's not me that is saying it. And people are worried about his coming. And they have done their mathematics. They've done their own evidence-based understanding of the situation. They have possibly looked at the numbers to say, if he comes on board, What we like to believe the deep challenges to our own person. And if that happens, what do? Do we simply write him off? They have the right to write him off and say, we welcome you on board. Come on, President Jonathan, like you posted out the 3 issues, posters you raised. We're going to smash through you and decapitate you politically. So we don't care about you and your party, but they didn't do that. They are busy giving him excuses, giving him reasons why he shouldn't contest. There was even a banner on the Nation newspaper, front page. That banner is what? Why President Jonathan will not contest in order not to break Southern unity. The charge of Southern solidarity is resonating across the board. It's not me, Rufa, it is them pushing that narrative. Because they know that if it comes on board the Southern unity, the purported, bogus, mythologized Southern unity will be broken into pieces. They know that. And they know too. They're deep political players. I'm an analyst, but I'm the founding National Secretary of Alliance for Democracy. I caught my teeth deep in the politics of the East, the West, and the North. The biggest players in Eastern Nigerian politics are part of my own grooming. The biggest players in the Southwest, almost all of them now late. Abraham Adesanya, Uncle Bola Ige, the late Tayo Adebanjo, groomed me in the North from Awoniyi to Shiroma, to Shinkafi, to Mahmoud Waziri, to Loya and the rest of them. I'm deeply knowledgeable about the politics of the North. It's not just anecdotal evidence. We talk to people, we hear their mindset. We see that with senators, we see that with governors, we see that with opinion molders. Those for the civic centers and those on traditional ranks, we know what they're saying. But the moment for them to vocalize it hasn't come. Because we may enter another phase of the conversation. Why is the Dogoras and all the Namanis and so on being put together by a serving chief of staff of the president to rally support for the president? Why are they doing rallies across the country, including the villa? Because there's a sense of panic. That panic is that 2027 will be a day of reckoning. That reckoning becomes more acute if Jonathan is to contest that election.
Okay, Professor.
So it is not just a question of anecdotal evidence or some sense of nostalgia. It is that the trend line suggests strongly and most accurately there's panic in the rank of the other side.
Okay, Professor Denta, beyond the politics of personalities and political parties, the major concern of Nigerians is that what will 2027 general election look like? Will it be a free and fair election, or will it be an election that would look like the recent local government elections and by-elections in some states of the Federation? What kind of reform would you like to see?
Okay.
Particularly now that INEC is going to face a transition. The tenure of Professor Yakub Mahmoud is going to end latest by the end of this month. So there's going to be a change of order in that institution. But our concern is that would this Tinubu administration be able to deliver free and fair election in 2027? Do you have any concerns, or you think it's nothing to worry about?
Oh, I do have grave concerns. The Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, with Dr. Sam Amadi as the director, with myself as a distinguished fellow of that school, there was a recent national action plan on electoral reform that was made public. I advise and actually encourage Nigerians to seek it out there, get a copy of it and go through it to see point by point the institutional, methodological, and organizational kind of reforms we expect, both within the internal environment of election management, which is INEC and its internal organs, and the external environment, the ones you're talking about, the police and the security agencies on the one hand, governmental apparatus, even the judiciary, and so on, how they will behave in this election. We have not only on this program, earlier in the months and years past, or even other platforms have been part of, to talk about the hybrid nature of this government, almost like competitive authoritarianism we have before us, emasculating democratic spaces and shutting down civic centers. Take this, they bring back our Gears Center. We find it the Unity Fountain. Under Jonathan, it was there for people to make all the noise, even bring his government down. Today, it is gated by the DSS. You can't even go and protest. Seeing the end SARS under Buhari and then end hunger and bad governance under Bola Tinubu, what happened? So we understand that the 4 key domains of protection of guardrails of democracy, civic centers are shrinking and being depleted. The media is being haunted, including asking them to yield their bank accounts, some of them. Lebanon has been accused of terror financing, and parties have actually been put pressure on. So we understand that acutely. It's a duty of Nigerians to rally around to know there is a menace of illiberalism and authoritarianism lurking in the shadows. In 2027, we can't just allow INEC to behave as it did in the past. Remember that 15 years ago, there was a powerful movement called mandate protection. No matter how you reform the electoral system, the electoral apparatus, you tighten the tools of regulations and rules. If you don't have robust political participation, engagement by voters. For example, every major party contestant should have 2 agents in every polling precinct. Well-educated, well-positioned, and well-thought with a smartphone to record result. 2, party mobilization should occur at every rank, and people must demand for their right. Again, if you add that to the reform, add that to maybe a robust international and local domestic monitoring, and then possibly civic engagement in the next 1 year, 1.5 years, educating the people, warning about dangers that we put our democracy if we lose this coming election. Possibly. We may not have a perfect election, but we may have an election in which the ruling party will be so frightened or cautious enough to allow the will of the people to prevail the way Jonathan did in 2015.
Well,
it's a work in progress. So I cannot say here and predict with certainty how it will end.
Now, you see that, what do you think? What do you see? So, Article said something that this government is this government is that, it's quicker for these people to come and debunk and insult themselves, not even Atiku self, every time. Because everything Atiku said, they are true. It is there outside. It's there for you to see. Everybody could see. That's why you are in Nigeria. You live in Nigeria. You can see what is going on. So whatever Atiku said, Atiku was not lying. But now you see APC members, like I listened to Felix Moka, that one, he come quickly to debunk. I say Atiku is not in any way, Atiku does not have any moral ground to criticize, to criticize about government, to say government. Come on, what's your problem? What's the color of your problem, Felix Moka? You guys will not address the issues. You guys will not address the issue, the message of that messenger. You leave what matters and start attacking the messenger for saying the truth to the whole world to see. Address the message of Atiku, not attacking Atiku in person. And that's what they have been doing. When Peter Obi speak like this, if Daniel Bwala did not come and lie to Nigeria, lie to himself, shoot himself at the end of the day, Felix Moka will come. If Felix Moka did not come, the other one, Bayo Onanuga will come. All of them. Yeah, that is their job. They are paid to do that. But hey, who you are lying to? We are all Nigerians. Now I am a Nigerian. Atiku is a Nigerian. Hussein Rufai is a Nigerian. Abati is a Nigerian. The other one, Ese, my sister, Ese Mayosi, she's a Nigerian. All these people are complaining that this figure you are telling us, it does not in any way impact the lives that Nigerians are living. It's not changing. You are romancing the figure, changing, rebasing every time, telling us things are getting better. But the price of food and services is not dropping. They are not dropping in the market. So how do you want us to believe? If you say inflations are getting better, that means food and services should be getting, the price of food and services should be dropping, right? People should not happily smile to the market and begin to buy things cheaper. No, every month, just like Rufai said, every month the money you spend on food and services item in the house is increasing every month. Every month, you know that this month you spend 200,000, for example, this month. Next month you are going to spend 150,000. Next month you are going to spend 100,000 to say, okay, things are getting better because prices are coming down. No, every month the price is increasing. If you spend 100,000, if you spend 200,000 this month for your food store, your groceries and everything, if you spend 200,000 this month, next month I bet you are going to spend 250,000. If you spend 250,000 next month, you are going to spend 300k the other month. So how? We could see everybody goes to work. We see the transportations are not getting better, not going down. The price of fare are not dropping. The dollar rates are not dropping. You say you now stabilize Naira. Now it's now 1,500, be 1,600. The figures you are rebasing, telling us things are getting better. You are using the last year to compare this year. Last year, this time, dollar was 1,600 plus. Now it's 1,500 plus. So what is the difference? If it is like this, then the price of food and services are still there, are still the same. That's not reduced. And this dollar will depend, because 80% of our consumption in this country is production, is importation. Is importation, and these dollars will depend on in importation. Do you understand? So these people, they are just lying to us. So they don't need to tell us. And like I said, I'm in Nigeria, you're in Nigeria, I'm in Nigeria. We see that things are not getting better. It has not changed. It's only APC member because they are trying to deceive themselves that things are getting better. No, that's not what we want. We want to see, we want to feel it. We want to go to the market and begin to see the price of food and services are getting better. We want to see you are creating more employment, that people are not getting employment. People are now getting employment. No, people are losing job again. No companies, small scale businesses are shutting down. No, that's not what we want. No. We want to see that little small scale businesses are improving and improving. They are doing well. More are opening their businesses. But now, instead of opening, they can't. Do you understand? Anyways, and the other one, Mr. Udenta. You see, Jonathan, I don't know yet until now, we've done a video, we said a lot. Jonathan still have not said anything that he is contesting or he's not contesting. He has not issued any official statement. He met with Peter Obi, they discussed, closed door meeting. We do not know the outcome of that meeting. Yeah, the meeting was successful, fruitful according to Peter Obi. We do not know what they say. If one is stepping down for one, or if Jonathan is contesting or Peter Obi is contesting, two of them cannot be president and vice. The two of them cannot. It's not going to work. Is it that one step down for the other? So what I'm saying, Jonathan should not be pushed. Jonathan should not allow these people to push him. So election in 2027 is not for you, Jonathan. So I just believe you listen to people and you do not accept this offer. You go home. This honor that you have as a global man, global person, take it, accept it, be a political elder statesman for others, advance them, do your things, do not come back. Aso Rock, say no to Aso Rock 2027. After all, your wife is not even interested. Don't go against the wishes of your wife. Your wife is not even interested going back to Aso Rock. She's happy that she left that Aso Rock in peace. In peace, so not in pieces. So she is not ready to go back. Do not force her to go back. And we do not want a situation whereby you go to Aso Rock and your wife will not go with you. It's not going to make any sense. You are there, your wife is at home. She doesn't go with you to Aso Rock. She's not doing anything as a first lady in the country. We do not hear her voice, all those things. So the wife, she's not interested. So why do you want to accept this by force, by all means? Do not let them pressure you. Let this pressure they are giving you, tell them you don't want to, you don't want. So if PDP want to rebuild themselves, let them look for another candidate. If Peter Obi is interested, you want to risk it, take the offer, fine, but not Jonathan. If at all you take it, you are not going to win the election 2027. So simple as that. Anyways, what do you think? Please leave your honest opinion. Share this video, like, share, comment, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Be your guy. Run out for me now. Subscribe.